Well, I wrote this song for the Christian youth. I want to teach kids the Christian truth. If you want to reach those kids on the street, then you gotta do a rap to a hip-hop beat. So I gave my sermon an urban kick. My rhymes are fly, my beats are sick. My crew is big and it keeps getting bigger. That's 'cause Jesus Christ is my nigga. Woo! He's a life changer, miracle arranger, born to the virgin mom in a manger. Water to wine, he's a drink exchanger, and he died for your sins. I preach the word, that's my gig, and I rhyme better than Notorious Big. All the other MCs, I wish them well, but if you live in sin, you burn in hell. Now I'ma pass the mic to my lovely wife. She's a fly MC and the light of my life. So to bust a rhyme without further ado, take it away, Mary Sue.
Jesus Christ is my nigga. He's the son of the original G. And he was sent to earth to elucidate the way that we should be.
What?
Like if another MC says, you're a freak, you're a lame butt rapper and your rhymes are weak. I don't get mad and I don't critique. I forgive him and turn the other cheek. I don't blaspheme and I don't brag. I don't cuss and my pants don't sag. I do exude a little Christian swag and I'm proud to be an American.
Jesus Christ is a nigga. Let his light shine through ya. Let his love pop a cap in your butt and say hallelujah. Jesus Christ is a nigga. He's a homie MC, JC, you see. He's an honest, caring, peace-loving nigga like me. If you do drugs and you think you're cool, you need to come to Sunday school. Put those drugs in a garbage can. Stand up tall, you're a Christian man. Word up. I'm freestyling.
Hit me.
May I have your attention for a very important public service announcement. We are taking over the internet, and the United States champion of word wrestling entertainment has returned for another special birthday edition of the Pocket Locker podcast. I am your host with the most, all the way from the East Coast. And as always, good people, I am in airplane mode. Gang, it is time to grab something to drink, grab something to smoke. Through him, with him, in the unity of the flying man. Gang, you may drink. It is time to jump into the musical portion of the program. What is going on over here? Boop, 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 boop. I don't know. This thing is not letting me change things. Let's see if this works. Nope, that's not doing that there. Oh my goodness. Gang, Restream is currently being unresponsive. Nope, don't exit the page. That would be bad. All right, I might have to restart the stream real quick because I don't know. This Restream's not responding right now. Let's see what happens if I do that. It's probably bad. All right, hang on a sec. All right, I'm back. Are we still here? All right, let's see if we can share this screen now. There we go. Perfect. Boom. Here we go. Tip it on back. Happy birthday, Lina.
You know it doesn't make much sense. There ought to be a law against anyone who takes offense at a day of your celebration. Cause we all know in our minds
Hey,
that there ought to be a time that we can set aside to show just how much we love you. And I'm sure you would agree, what could fit more perfectly than to have a world party on the day you came to be. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
It's that good birthday song. None of that whack shit around here.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Van harte gefeliciteerd met je verjaardag en een hele fijne dag.
Yeah, what he said, because I know exactly what that means. Yeah, you know. Yeah. I would translate, but you know, it's kind of an inside thing, you know. You either know or you don't know, you know what I mean? All right, gang. You know, today's episode is dedicated to Lina, so we are gonna jump into a little bit of the type of things that make us think about Lina on a day like today. So we're gonna go ahead and take off on today's journey. And first up, gang, is Socialism for Dummies. You know what I'm talking about? Lina's always trying to make sure we get exitcated. We're trying to get exitcated on the end of capitalism. See, you thought I messed up. I didn't mess up. Exitcated is a particular type of education that applies to things that need to die. And today we're going to talk about exitcating on capitalism through socialism, and then exitcating about Christianity through atheism. All right, here we go. Gang, I didn't mess up. What? I don't ever stumble on my words. Never. Doesn't happen. Boop. Hang on. Do that. Boop, 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 boop. Boom, there we go.
Richard Wolff has some great talks, and recently I watched one from him called Socialism for Dummies, which has some great information and history. The only problem is, both parts together are almost 2 hours of video. While you can certainly watch the talks, this video will be condensing the most important information with some of my own commentary included. Let's get started. For a while in America now, there seems to be a lot of taboo around discussing alternatives to capitalism, even in an age where its failings are becoming more obvious to everyday people. We're allowed to talk about heavy subjects like education, healthcare, and marriage equality, but socialism is always off the table. The only time we're allowed to speak of such a subject is when we are berating it. Richard Wolff notes that during his earlier days of teaching, that his students would consider the words socialist, communist, anarchist, Marxist, and terrorist as synonyms. Obviously, this is a bit childish. Our fear and lack of discussion about socialism has led people to connotate it with atrocities instead of hope. This facade, however, is fading away. We have capitalist crises like climate change and constant crashes that are pushing more people, especially younger generations, to radicalize and learn about these no-no words of economics. Bernie Sanders becoming so prominent in the past few decades is proof that more and more Americans want to answer the question amidst the chaos.
And this is, gang, it's about to be that time again. Y'all know this clock on 2023 is running out all too soon. The calendar is going to turn to 2024. And then you think they're talking a lot about the election now. It is going to be pull out all the stops, all systems go, talk about who is going to be the next president of the United States of America 24/7. And if you start in November 2023, yes, 365. And gang, the answer is just Joe Biden. You know, it's not really the topic of today's episode, but suffice it to say, the answer is fucking Joe Biden. And as burgeoning socialists, it's just going to be another reminder of the fact that capitalism is going to die the slowest, most painful death. And literally our lives are going to be sacrificed to the motherfucking beast. Because literally every fucking 4 years we do this same thing where we, keep the same two type of motherfuckers in office. We just delay potential progress towards socialism another 4 years. So we're going to be dealing with 4 more years of Joseph fucking Biden instead of 8 years of Bernie fucking Sanders. Now, I'm not saying Bernie is perfect, but God damn it, Bernie Sanders needs to be president of the United States of America. And I don't really have too much else to say to Bernie or about Bernie. Like, I just don't. To be honest, it's kind of a beef right now. Like, Bernie thinks it's cute to just be like, I don't want to run anymore. I want to do what's best for the team. And I'm going to endorse Joe Biden like 1,300 years before the election even starts. No, that was a mistake. Literally, I'll be leaving comments on Bernie Sanders' podcast. Like, when are you going to run for president? Because it's kind of important.
What else is there? Is there something better than capitalism? Interestingly enough, socialism wasn't always considered a bad thing. Like marijuana, communism was one of those things people could be open about in the American 1930s. We weren't taught to hate it yet. This openness made it harder to strawman socialists. As Richard Wolff notes, it's very hard to demonize socialists and communists when your Aunt Mary is one. So, what killed this openness? Why were Americans taught to hate socialists? Well, businesses weren't too fond of the New Deal in the 1930s and targeted the groups of people responsible for it, specifically socialists and communists, and broke them up. Large corporations then slowly consolidated media control into monopolies that push the kind of agenda they prefer. It's why, whether liberal or conservative-leaning stations, you will never find anti-capitalism in popular American news media. While they won't put socialism up for discussion, they sure seem to love throwing around the word just like Richard Wolff's old students did, slapping the label around on people like Barack Obama and Bernie Sanders, two very different politicians. But this label is slapped onto even more radically different people as well. Hugo Chavez called himself a socialist. A previous French president, François Hollande, ran as a socialist. The USSR was the Union of Socialist Soviet Republics.
Yeah, gang. There's a link for y'all to bless Lina right down there in the description.
Even the People's Republic of China calls themselves socialist. Well, hold on a minute. Despite both calling themselves socialists, I think we can all agree that Bernie Sanders isn't anything like China. This use of the word socialism for so many different things, it's confusing. How did it get like this? And to explain that, we need to get into the history of socialism and where the thought of it began. It all started in France at a time.
Stephanie, you definitely are you done with Doug, playing with your dinner? Gang, make sure you subscribe to Stephanie Helm's channel, link in the description. Stephanie was over there having a back and forth with Doug, which is probably good for the old algorithm and terrible for the old mental health.
When they were still practicing a system of economics called feudalism. You had lords, serfs who worked for the lords, and the church who made sure it stayed that way. Eventually, there was a violent, and in today's terms, capitalist revolution against feudalism. The French Revolution's mantra was liberty, equality, and fraternity.
Lina's actually in Gather playing video games.
Capitalism, that they could achieve these three goals. Capitalist revolutionaries hoped to destroy the hierarchy of serfs and lords, and instead of being born into such castes, everyone would all start at the same point. The focus was on the individual and their freedom to do anything they wanted as long as it didn't hurt anyone else. Fast forward to around half a century later, and capitalism was successfully replacing feudalism in Europe. However, Europeans were starting to realize that capitalism was selling them short on the liberty, equality, and fraternity that their revolution promised. Capitalists and workers replaced lords and serfs. They were not becoming equal, but instead quite the opposite.
And this is what we all know to be true, that capitalism is just a stand-in for the feudal system. It's lords and serfs all over again. The ruling class and the fucking peasant class and the fucking struggling ass hangers on barely in between. And even really I've noticed like kind of twisty turnies in there, because what they try to technically define as middle class, if you're realistic about the economic conditions we live in, is still like working class, just sort of maybe a slightly less marginalized range within the working class. But these are still two motherfuckers who can't go like, you know, more than 2 or 3 rainy days or life incidences before you know, economic despair would set in. And that to me really says like where you're at, right? Like, because you're not really financially stable or secure unless you can afford to have some shit happen to you and still be okay. You know what I'm saying? So to me, that's really what we should be working towards as a floor, right? That's a threshold that really nobody should be below.
Naturally, as with any other economic system such as slavery, this births critiques of the capitalist system. Critics argued that capitalism had recreated many of the problems that France had before the revolution, and that it's odd to expect individuals only working in their best self-interest to benefit the larger community, as Adam Smith had theorized. These critics believed that the community, not the individual, should be the priority, and they decided that, since they were not individualists, that they would consider themselves socialists. Just as capitalism spread quickly to every country, so too did socialism, the critique of capitalism. Socialism is capitalism's shadow. Where capitalism exists, so too will critics of the system, as anyone, just as early socialists did, can naturally find problems with the system over time. Capitalism makes the same promises and continually fails to deliver. However, due to this fast spread over so many different countries and cultures, socialism has meant many different things to the people who try to interpret it. For there to be one socialism that everyone follows is what Richard Wolff calls a fantasy for people who don't know much about this. Socialism was mostly just about critiquing capitalism for not—
And honestly, that unfortunately plays into the hand of the right-wingers and the capitalists, right? Because nobody really knows what socialism is. It can be sort of loosely affiliated with such a broad range of you know, sort of systems and policies and governments, and it makes it an effective boogeyman. You know, the best boogeymen come with mystery. That way you can be scared. You know, the scare factor is always amplified when you're dealing with the unknown or the misunderstood.
Delivering on the French Revolution's promises, and putting the community first to eventually achieve those promises. Socialism was just a set of ideas, not an instruction manual. These ideas were added on to as socialism continued to exist. Marx, who was fond of the French Revolution, joining current existing socialists, added that capitalism was not the vehicle in which the people should achieve socialism, and thus liberty, equality, and fraternity, but instead that it was the obstacle. Marx popularized the idea that workers taking charge of economic decisions, owning their means of production, such as the factory and tools, would get us closer to the original goals of the French Revolution. It takes what capitalists concentrated in the hands of a few people and equalizes it out to the workers. The first major split in socialist thought was how we were going to make the transition from capitalism to these worker co-ops. Revolutionary socialists argued that socialism would reign in similar to capitalism, with a bloody, violent revolution. Evolutionary socialists, on the other hand, argued that because a majority of the people, the workers, liked their ideas, and because the state had more military power than them, that they could make parties and use that political power to transition. Regardless, these were both ideas that wanted the same goal: capturing the state, whether it be by killing those who participate in it or by beating them at their own game, to then use its power as a vehicle to usher in socialism. For clarification, the state was never the end goal. It was the vehicle of transition. In the late 19th century, both evolutionary and revolutionary routes were tried, both scoring wins here and there. Lenin, who, like American Eugene V. Debs, was in exile for telling people not to fight other workers in the capitalists' Great War, told his party, the Bolsheviks, to capture the state since they were weak due to losing the war, and despite being called crazy for this idea, succeeded. Since Lenin was the first to succeed in capturing the state due to using the revolutionary route, global socialists argued that this was the optimal way. However, a dissenting group, who called themselves communists, said such a conclusion wasn't reasonable since Russia's revolution was based on an edge case scenario. They also
that actually feels like so reasonable, and that's the assessment here. Like the scale of force and violence that a revolutionary overthrow of capitalism would take is not a day I want to see personally.
At socialist Russia by having the same goals as socialists, but with the added stipulations that communism was to be a stateless and classless society since such goals weren't reached by Russia's state capitalism. Russia, after all its sacrifice to recover from the revolution, losing a war, and being invaded by France, Britain, and America, still had the state. Its economy was state capitalist, in which the state replaced capitalists in all enterprises, and workers only owned their means of production indirectly through the state, if ever. For the most part, their society still functioned very similarly to capitalism, as they still worked Monday through Friday for a small number of people who owned all businesses. Some would argue that this centrally planned system and its inflexibilities were the reason for the USSR's collapse. Regardless, the government seized the economy but failed to transform it. Stalin declares in the 1930s that the Russians had succeeded in achieving socialism. Of course, this was a bit of a necessary lie for political reasons. The workers who had given so much already to the revolution didn't want their sacrifice to be in vain, and would have been very upset to hear that they had only come halfway. This lie also confused future generations, especially Americans, into equating socialism to government control, and communism to complete government control, when this is not the case. For instance, Medicare for All is not socialist. It's state capitalist since the state is doing the job of the capitalist in the same industry. Progressives happen to prefer the latter since it has less focus on profit and middlemen, making healthcare, in this example anyways, more accessible. Every economic system had both state and private versions. There were private and state slave owners. Kings, the state, in feudalism owned serfs, and so too did private individuals. Regardless, private and state are two versions of the same system, not different systems entirely. So, what do we do after capitalism?
That is a really important point. Like, socialized medicine is not socialist. And again, it's just more... It's more, nuance and vagary that becomes very difficult to communicate about, because it allows people to actually treat something like, Medicare for all as like, a socialist overthrow revolutionary tactic, worthy of another Red Scare. It's insane.
Capturing the state. This is an even more difficult question among socialists, since transition has only a few popular routes of happening: evolutionary, revolutionary, or anarchistic, while the socialism itself has many different forms, such as democratic confederalism and council communism. Most revolutionaries, such as Fidel Castro and Peter Kropotkin, believe that the first step after transition was stabilization. Make sure everyone was still provided for and could survive during the transition. They did this by reconstructing society as it was previously, but booted out the capitalists and told them to either leave or be workers like everyone else. This is a key component that makes socialist transitions successful. They take power through state or anarchism, remove capitalists, and reconstruct. So, in conclusion, the end goal of post-capitalism is not to transition to statism, but to instead use the state to transition to post-capitalism. There are state and private forms of every economic system. The state-owning enterprise is not socialism, but instead state capitalism. Anti-capitalists disagree both on how to transition to a post-capitalist society and also disagree on what a post-capitalist society looks like. To have a high likelihood of achieving post-capitalism, one must have a revolution that assesses the environment of a country and applies the best fitting kind, remove capitalists from society, and reconstruct society to provide for everyone's needs, to give the people a grace period to decide how they wish to organize their post-capitalist society.
And fucking good luck with the fools we trying to live with in America. But gang, that is the fucking task that lies ahead of us, is doing this very difficult work. And I have to tell you, it really is gonna require revolution in the education system. We cannot continue to have such a large portion of society that remains ignorant as to social, economic, and political issues, and is effectively used as a method of obstructing progress, because they're willing to vote against their own interests. They literally hold dear and put the current capitalist status quo on par with their own religious and political commitments. And so this is where it becomes very difficult to buy into the idea that sort of the arc of history bends towards justice or progress. It just it seems very much to depend upon the direction of the people. And I think most of us who would probably rule out violent revolutionary means, not to say we rule them out conceptually or philosophically, but just that's not the most, it's obviously a very costly route to change. I think we're mostly in the phase where we're trying to use the system to change the system. And so this is what we're stuck. We're either stuck that or going towards what they were describing as more the anarchist approach, and that's not going to work either. Our society is just too complex and too massive for something like that. So very interesting. Let's switch it up. It is time for the main event of the evening, and we'll have a little bit of fun and check out this new video. I think it's from the Skeptic on Theists Say Stupid Things. Yeah, a little bit of socialist education, and now a little bit of shitting on our least favorite topic, motherfucking religious people.
What stupid things do theists say? And what should we say back to them? From denying evolution to accepting...
Let's start with, I believe there's a God. That shit is ridiculous. But where do you start, man? This is kind of funny, man. Go ahead, actually, before we get started, let's play some bets. Let's play a little game. Let's play some bets on what do y'all think are gonna be, if you haven't seen it, no spoilers, then what do you think are gonna be some of the stupid things theists say that come up? I mean, I gotta just say, belief in God overall, that's it doesn't, I'm gonna just call it what it is. It doesn't make sense to believe in a God. It's just it's crazy. It's crazy. If people were not raised to believe in this God and actively indoctrinated into belief in such a God, that the very notion, the very concept would be crazy. What about objective basis for morality? Right? This idea that this God of the Bible who literally kills everything, literally, for all intents and purposes, wipes out everything alive on the entire planet, save one family and a pair from each animal kind. which nobody knows what the fuck a kind is, but that's a topic for a different discussion. Literally, motherfucker who needs to have animal sacrifice to this supernatural, eternal, all-powerful ego literally requires somebody to kill an animal for people to, you know, atone for the fucked up shit they do to each other. Literally actually against their will and consent impregnates a virgin to make a person who never did anything wrong ever die a horrible, torturous death to amend the sin. Do y'all see how stupid the idea that this God could be the basis of some sort of objective moral standard is? I mean, it's just the most ridiculous thing to say. Then what about you got your scientific absurdities? You know, creationism, that's some stupid shit to believe in. But you know, virgins don't get pregnant, people don't rise from the dead. It's just, God, the list goes on and on and on. And then what about everything ever said by William Lane Craig? I mean, come on. Can I get an amen, hallelujah on that? I mean, like it's hard. It's hard. This is a tough one, gang. What y'all think gonna be up there, man?
A man in the sky is
Young
the
Earth
reason we're
creationism
here.
for sure.
Stick around and get ready to hear some weird
For
assertions
sure.
in another
Pretty
Theists
stupid.
Say Stupid Things. Hello, I'm the Skeptic, the British floating circle that watches people make extraordinary claims, and then I explain why I don't accept what they're saying. You may even agree with some of those things. Some of the things that theists say are just ridiculous. These are some comments I get on my Facebook page, and honestly, I've never been more convinced that what these folks believe is a bit stupid. So I asked for some help in finding
Hang on a
convinced that
second.
what
Oh man, it's funny you can't even see the irony in your own stupid comment. You can lead an atheist to the truth, but you cannot make them see it. We still don't know how young Mary was. Making assumptions isn't proof of anything. She could have been 20 or 28. That's not statutory rape. You're making an argument using legalistic terms we use today. Let's say this for the sake of argument. Even if she was 15 or 16, it still does not matter, as that is the expected time for women back then to be married and give birth to a first child. You can't use today's cultural standards to scrutinize theirs 2,000 years ago as some proof of wrongdoing. Furthermore, she knew what was going to happen because she was told beforehand and she consented to it. No, she didn't. It's not rape because it wasn't a physical act of forcible penetration and she consented. She did not say, oh no, I don't want to. And it happened anyways. You are not even making a grounded argument right now, and it's hilarious. Holy shit, triggered. Yep, you're an atheist in every sense of the word. All right. Good job showing everyone else not to be. All right. This the type of shit I love, the threats. You will find out soon enough when you stand before the throne of the one you have been criticizing all this time. You lose. That's the like, tell me how you really feel, Christians. You know, the blessed be he's and all of them. I love the childish interpretations of the Bible. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. God saw the light was good and separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening and there was morning, the first day. God created all things. Yeah. Okay. Why did evolution stop? Why aren't we still climbing out of the ocean? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Religion makes you stupid.
these folks believe is a
This
bit
is your
stupid.
brain on Jesus.
So I asked for some help in finding short videos that have ridiculous claims from theists, and this is what you came up with. Although, before we find out what silly things are said this time, if this isn't your first Skeptic video, hit the like, the subscribe and the bell, and more videos like this could show up in your suggested feed. And a super thanks to those that hit super thanks in some recent videos. Banana Slug 1951, Revcliffe, Andrew Jones 6693, Daniel Hill 7149, and Nuppetball 31. Lisa the Rainbow Giraffe bestows leaves upon you all. More hen. Ready for some silliness? mjacko81 has sent a lot of videos my way for this one.
So I started asking congregations, well, why are you guys Christians? And as I asked that question around the country, I got the same three answers. The first and most common response I get for why are you a Christian is, I was raised that way. My parents were Christians. I've been a Christian.
You know what, gang? Congratulations, Christians. Sometimes I really do give up hope for y'all. I really do. I really do give up hope for y'all, because let's face it, if you're grown, and most of my audience is in that 25 plus range, which I describe as comfortably grown, you are struggling to be an honest person at this point. The things that you have to claim you believe to maintain your Christian identity just really stretches the credulity to think that you are honest people. But I'm impressed, because I don't even, every once in a while they say the truth shines through, because fuckface J. Warner Wallace, y'all know we don't suspect that this motherfucker will tell you the truth about what he had for breakfast this morning. But this one rings true to me, and I'm very impressed with the candor of Christians. Yes, Christian, the number one reason y'all believe the foolishness y'all believe is because you were raised to believe this foolishness while you were still soft in the head. Man, the indoctrination has worked on you just the way it was intended to. But let's be real. Please notice how I was raised a Christian. It's not a good reason to believe in a God. Like it's just so. What's beautiful about this is you get so sick of the apologetics bullshit, the fucking philosophical arguments, the fake ass pseudoscience, all the evidences for the historicity of the Bible, or if Jesus really was a real person. So now we look. Let's just keep it G. None of that is a good reason to believe the Christian faith. But more importantly, none of that is the actual reason why people actually believe the Christian faith. What we have here in this number one reason I was raised a Christian is singularly both actually the reason most people believe in the Christian faith, and two, one of the stupidest reasons to believe in the Christian faith.
As long as I can remember, I was raised in the church. Good answer.
Good answer.
Is it though? What if your parents taught you about the wrong God? If J. Warner Wallace here had grown up in India, perhaps he'd be saying the same thing about the Hindu gods.
Boom.
Or if he grew up in Dubai, he'd be saying the same about Allah. Or if he grew up in Northern Europe in the 9th century, he'd probably be saying the same about Odin. Does where you grow up dictate which is the correct God?
The second one.
And literally, I'm gonna tell you how I feel. Only the atheist can really say, independent of where I grew up, I examined the evidence, and nothing I examined led me to a determination that there's likely to be a God. And that's just so beautiful. Like literally, like there's a universality to the denial of God that just totally, isn't reflected with how faith traditions line up with, where people were born, what family they were born into, etc.
Most popular answer is, I've had an experience that I can attribute to God. It's
Woo! Please notice how this is also a really stupid reason to believe in the Christian faith. Again, people of every stripe of have religious experience. Matter of fact, people who don't even believe in gods have like experiences of something beyond them that is transformative or whatever that they can't explain. It is just, but I love it too. Like, this is a really good, whoever found this video for this video, they picked some prime content from J. Warner Wallace, because this is like getting to have the honest conversation with the Christians in your life that you can't actually have with the Christians in your life, right? Because if push came to shove and you had to keep it real with grandma, keep it real with moms and your auntie and them, right, about why they're really a Christian, the number one reason would be they were raised a Christian, and you would have to resist telling them, yeah, that's some pretty stupid shit. Then, you know, they would just be all up in their feels, all comfortable, all bubbling and fucking, you know, their cup runneth over with emotion when they talk about the experience they have had of God in their life. And once again, it would take every fiber of your being not to tell him, that's some pretty stupid shit right there too.
Happened in my life, either I was cured of something, I was delivered from something that demonstrated to me that Christianity was true. Good answer.
Is it though? Couldn't someone of the Jewish faith have experienced something and attributed it to the more Jewish than Christian God? Couldn't a Scientologist have suddenly experienced something and then decided it was a thetan or whatever? Couldn't someone from ancient Greece have felt healed by something and believed it was the actions of Zeus?
Exactly.
How can you tell the difference between someone experiencing a God versus them just thinking they've experienced a God?
The third question is kind of like the second and experiential. I used to be a jerk, and then I met Jesus. I'm not so much a jerk anymore. He transformed my life. Okay, great.
Is this more heard about the possibility of Jesus than actually meeting it? Because if folks have really, truly met Jesus, they'd be able to show it and tell others where it can be found. If they just think they experienced Jesus, how do they know it was the only white guy in Israel versus, I don't know, maybe Lisa the rainbow giraffe, leaf be upon her, touching them on the heart with a giant rainbow hoof? Not one of those reasons demonstrates a God. Sorry, next.
Yeah, but what I will say is sobriety to me is the best argument for Jesus, right? Like, you know, it's not a good one. I didn't say qualified as good. I didn't say it crossed the threshold into sufficient. I just think personally, you know, if Jesus is the reason for the season and that season is you being alive and not dead, then like, you know, hey, that's compelling, to personally compelling. Yeah, but gotta be honest. It's still a pretty stupid reason to be a Christian. Still doesn't make any sense. It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up.
Solomon, who had 1,000 wives of pleasure and power and wealth, summed it up by saying this: vanity, vanity, all is vanity. It's like chasing the wind. Every pleasure is temporal. This world is very superficial, doesn't think very deeply about life and death.
What's to think about when you're alive?
First off, can we just be honest? You know, as today marks the day where the calendar turns in the personal annual life of Lina, because I'm a timeless, spaceless, immaterial being that's definitely not aging. You know, can I just say that life's kind of exhausting? You know what I mean? Like we wouldn't want the day to last forever, right? Days get kind of like, you know, there's been a lot of today, you know, today's kind of had enough time to be today. You know, it's time to get some rest, and then it could be tomorrow. You know, overall life's kind of like that. Like, Christians, I got to stop with that eternal life stuff. I don't want to live forever. You know, as people age, we get tired. You know, and eventually we've done enough of most of the things we're going to do. And we get to a certain point where there's a lot of other stuff we wish we did, but we don't got the energy to do them things no more. So we on our way out. And most of us is kind of okay with that. We make peace with that. Chris, y'all got to figure that shit out, because this shit about living forever is just childish. Look, gang, I know we're here to focus on the fact that it's silly, stupid, irresponsible, and patently absurd and not true. But we ought to talk about it's fucking childish.
Life, you're in life, and when it comes to death, you're no longer here, just as it was before you were born. Why do you need to try and get deep?
We know this world with all its pleasure has an end. We're not as those who have no hope, because God's granted us everlasting life.
How could you possibly know that? No one has ever come out and said, I'm now living forever because I died and live in a spiritual realm. And you'd have to worship a God for forever too, because I hardly doubt a God that demands you accept it without it ever proving itself just so you can live for forever is going to let you get on and live forever without constant praise. It may even ask you to work for it, because how else is it going to continue making worms that eat babies' eyeballs?
Now, gang, I'm going to tell you something about me that you may not believe. And that is that I actually died several years ago. And there is no God, but I did travel to the afterlife, and it turns out that I was thrown into the eternal cycler and permitted to continue living eternally. Yeah. Do you believe me? Even a better question is, do you think I believe me? Because this is where the rubber really meets the road. Because if you don't think I believe me, then you probably just think this is a ridiculous example and it's pretty silly. But if you do think I sincerely believe that I've returned from the dead and I'm living forever, you would want to lock me up into a particular type of institution where all of my activity and behaviors would be supervised, because you would consider myself a danger to myself and others. And this is when you realize how silly the shit Christians say is. Because even if somebody actually can't, and that's where you realize Christians, they just full of shit. Y'all just full of shit. Because if somebody returned and told you they had been to heaven and Jesus sent them back and they were here forever now and life is eternal and all you would not believe them. You would have them put into a padded fucking room for an extended period of time and no one would fucking blame you. Because that's some crazy shit to say, because there's no possibility that that's even true. Living forever is an oxymoron. I don't know if y'all may notice, but life is a process. And like many processes, it has a distinct phases. It has a distinct beginning. We call that birth. It has a distinct middle. We call that all the in-between shit. It's known as your dash. It's a dash. When they make your little gravestone, the middle part, your entire life is going to be summarized in a dash. Like, say you were born in 1926 and you died in 1983, it's going to say 1926 dash 1983. And that's going to be your whole life right there. So we call the middle part the dash. That's life. And then we call the end death. Yeah. So life ends in death. If it doesn't, it wouldn't be life. So after the death part, you don't get to start the life part over again, because that's not how the process works. Holy shit, y'all are dumb.
Second, is Ray Comfort going to become a deadly disease factory worker in heaven and be in charge of causing discomfort and worse in babies after he dies? No.
And when we speak of everlasting life, we're not speaking of sitting on a cloud playing a rustic harp as some kind of spirit. When Jesus rose from the dead, he rose bodily. The disciples thought they'd seen a spirit. He said, give me some food. And when he ate the food didn't fall on the floor.
That's a fun story, Grandpa. I think you've been watching too much Casper the Friendly Ghost. Also, How can you even prove that happened?
He was a physical being with feeling and appetite. That's the new body we're going to get, a body like unto Christ.
One that's going to get nailed to a cross because some folks I don't know are going to eat an apple that were told not to. No thanks. You can't play pin the Jew on the cross with me. I'm not even religious.
And God's kingdom has come to this earth, and God's will be done on this earth as it is in heaven.
I heard as a tis in heaven. Did you know Brits call being mixed up getting in a tizzy or a tiz? So really, heaven is in a tiz? It's all messed up and there's yet another reason you don't need to believe. Next.
The Roadrunner tactic is simply turning a claim on itself. So if someone says there is no truth, you're going to say, is that true?
Is that
or
true?
Somebody says there are no absolutes.
Is it true that there is no truth? Well, how do you know that that's true?
You're going to say, is that an absolute? Or if someone says all truth is relative, you're going to say, is that a relative truth? Or if someone says you can't know anything, you're going to say, then how do you know that? Or if someone says all truth comes from science, you're going to say, does that truth come from science? No, that's a...
Just like when you finish with your wife and you go, oh, baby, that was so good. She goes, really? Was it? How do you know that?
philosophical claim. Or if someone says you ought not judge, then you want to say, then why are you judging me for judging? Because that's a judgment right there.
That was a lot, Frank. So what do you say when someone says, prove your God exists? Are you going to say...
What do you mean by prove? What do you mean by your? What do you mean by God? What do you mean by exist?
If it doesn't exist, or you prove it exists. What a stupid tactic to deflect from the bigger question. And no, truth doesn't come from science, but most true things can be verified by scientific methods.
Also, what the fuck does that tactic have to do with the Roadrunner? You know, as somebody who grew up during a time when the Roadrunner was a cultural icon, you don't disrespect the Roadrunner like this. The Roadrunner was great. The Roadrunner made us happy. The Roadrunner brought many great times into our life. Frank Turk's a fucking asshole. Don't leave the Roadrunner out of this, Frank.
So until there's a better way of demonstrating things, I'm sticking with the science.
Beep, beep.
Thanks, Frankie. Next.
I think the biggest tragedy is that here in the American church, we've taught you how to read the Bible, but not do the Bible. Really a fun...
Dog, that's kind of nasty, man. You know, y'all might want to not do the Bible. You know, books can't consent either, weirdos.
Fundamental of the first century church that needs to become a fundamental of the 21st century church is casting out.
But yeah, I love the Christianese, the everyday Christianese, like doing the Bible. Christians love to talk about doing life together. You know, we got to do life together. That's what we got to do around here, gang. We got to do life together. Like, what the fuck does that mean, bro? Like, we're friends. Like, we're just what? What do you mean?
Demons. All believers can and should cast out demons.
Casting out demons? What demons? The only time I've seen anything demon-related is when things haven't been going the right way for believers and they need to blame something. Misbehaving kids.
I command your mouth to open by the name and authority of Jesus Christ. Huh? Where? YouTube? She's been watching bad videos.
Or stories being made up.
That was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in my life. We're gonna have to watch that again. We're gonna have to watch that again.
For believers and they need to blame something. Misbehaving kids.
I command your mouth to open by the name and authority of Jesus Christ. Huh? Where? YouTube? She's been watching bad videos.
Or stories being
Gang,
made.
the funniest part about that too is you could tell by the smile on the little girl's face that she's just, you know, like, oh, let me see how I can get these grown people to play Imagination Land with me. And so she's just going along like she's having like a crazy fucked up exorcist version of like the imaginary tea party when you sit down at the Fisher Price playset and you're having a little playtime, a little fake tea party with the nieces and nephews and all of that shit, right? And the sad part is though, it's the grown folks who are taking it seriously, and the child is clearly recognizing that this isn't like, we're gonna play pretend. Oh, y'all want to play pretend? Yeah, let's play pretend. Let's see how far I can get with this pretend play with these people. But the grown folks is literally taking this shit for serious. Oh my goodness.
Up about a certain pastor that appears in this clip.
3 of you in the room right now. You better look in my eyeballs. We ain't afraid of you, you stinking witch.
Well, if you're not afraid, call them up on stage and have a conversation with them. Unless you can't, because this entire thing is made up.
You devil-worshipping Satanist witch!
The fact is, demons, like gods, haven't ever been proven to be real. So how can demons even be cast out? Waving your hands manically and shouting, "Out, demon!"
Yep.
Sure. What you really need to do to protect yourself from demons is to bathe in the urine of Lisa the rainbow giraffe, leave be upon her. Fortunately, all orange soda on the planet is a representation of Lisa P, so just use that.
What about the Spider-Man objection to the Gospels, which is the idea that Spider-Man is a fictional figure.
And the God and Jesus aren't?
But it's placed in a real city such as New York. How do we know Jesus and the Gospels aren't fictional? Because they're also placed in real places. Well, one point to bring to the surface is that there wasn't the kind of careful historical fictional writing in the first century like there is today. So that's important.
How do you know that? Are you saying people had no imaginations back then? That's a really silly thing to say.
What a dumb thing to say.
Second, the gospel writers tell us that they're reporting what they saw and heard and investigated. Luke begins his gospel by saying, I have investigated everything carefully.
The book says that the book is true because the people who wrote the book said that the things they saw and said in the book are true.
What I'm about to tell you is true, and it's true because I say so. I once saw a rainbow, and I know that it's because Lisa the rainbow giraffe, leave be upon her, pooped it into existence. Just saying that things are true doesn't make them true. How can we verify what the Bible says? Hint, we don't use the Bible.
So if they tell us that, and then we go look at the people and places and archaeological record, and it backs it up, that is one piece of a larger case for the reliability of the New Testament.
No, this would mean that the finding evidence of the Twin Towers falling is evidence that Spider-Man is true. This is not how this works. That is not how this works, Sean.
And the gospel.
So the
also, he looks about as dumb as he sounds, doesn't he? Like, dude, look, we shouldn't make fun of people's appearance. But what they wear, that's a choice. That's it. That I think that's fair game. I think that's a reflection of your poor character in this place. That this is not a good look for Sean McDowell. It's very bright. It's just too much. It's too much. Too many bright colors, and also, somebody needs to revoke his Marvel card for this. His Marvel card needs to be revoked. This is not cool.
Piece of a larger case for the reliability of the New Testament and the gospel.
So the only difference between this and Spider-Man is that you don't think people could imagine up stories back then. Here's something. What if the Bible is actually made up stories, and those folks you insult by saying they can't imagine stuff actually did imagine some stuff? And people went, I like the sound of that. I'm going to treat it as true. People genuinely think that an owl is going to bring them a letter from Hogwarts someday. It's the same thing.
However old you might be, I bet while exploring the world around you, you've probably wondered how everything came to be.
No, not really. And I certainly don't think it's a supernatural wizard's doing.
St. Thomas Aquinas, a wise thinker from the 13th century, had some interesting ideas about proving the existence of God. Here are his 5 ways, explained in a way that helps me understand it.
Finally, a dumbed-down version I might actually understand.
The first way, the domino effect. You know how when you push a row of dominoes, they fall one after another? Well, Aquinas noticed that everything in the world seems to be moving or changing, just like those falling dominoes.
Well now, They can accept things changing when it suits them, but when it comes to evolution, they say there are no observable changes. So which is it?
But there must be something that started all this motion without being moved itself. Think of it like someone outside the row of dominoes who pushed the first one. Aquinas believed that this first pusher is God, the one who started everything in motion.
Okay, but now that claim has been made, you'd have to demonstrate it. You can't just say someone thinks it was a god, so it must have been a god. Why couldn't that first domino have been something natural? Like a black hole singularity being packed so tightly that it can't sustain itself and it implodes or explodes or something.
The second way, the chain of causes. Imagine you have a toy car and you want to make it move. You push it with your hand and it starts moving. But then you wonder what made my hand move. And you realize that it's your muscles and nerves that made your hand move. But even they need something to make them move, like electrical signals from your brain. And this chain of causes can't go on forever. There must be a first cause that set everything else in motion. Aquinas said that first cause is God.
That's exactly the same argument as the previous one, just worded different. And what if it was just an infinite chain of events? What if our singularity that caused what we see as our universe wasn't the first one? What if it's just been
this is the truth. Like, all of these different fucking arguments are just some fucking dumbass version of everything had to start with God. And the proper response is just, no, it didn't.
And going, and we're just fortunate enough to have existed and witnessed the bit that we did. When we're gone, things will probably continue. Stars will collide, implode and explode, galaxies will collide, the universe or universes will expand, and we won't be here to enjoy it or die from it.
The third way, the maybe or maybe not game. Have you ever thought about how things exist? Everything you see around you, like trees, animals, and even yourself, could either exist or not exist. But imagine if nothing existed at all, then there would be nothing now. So there must be something that has to exist, something that doesn't depend on anything else for its existence. Aquinas called this necessary thing God.
Can I call it the universe? Why does it have to be a god?
Man.
If it was a god, which god is it? There are like...
And how do you demonstrate that it's fucking necessary? This is just, oh God. And Christians, how do you just don't know this? You're just saying shit you can't possibly know, which pretty much proves you already know you're sitting on some bullshit.
4,000 to choose from.
The fourth way, the best of everything. Think about your favorite food or video game. Now imagine all the versions of that food or game from the worst to the best. Somewhere on that scale, there's something that's the very best, right? Aquinas believe that when we look at different things, we can see that some are better than others. And to know what's the best, there must be a perfect standard to compare everything to.
Let me guess.
Not at all true.
That standard is a god. Ha! No. Saying stupid things doesn't make them true. I'm almost sure that something that I find as perfect isn't what someone else finds as perfect.
That perfect standard is what we call God.
Really? Really?
The fifth way, the amazing design. Look at the world around you, the trees, the animals, the stars. They all seem to be so perfectly designed. Just like how a well-made machine works smoothly. Aquinas thought...
This is again, like, it's just so not there. Okay, so there was a first cause. How do you prove that the first cause is what created life? Okay, so God is the golden standard. Okay, please tell me how a golden standard creates a universe. Okay, God is the objective basis for morality. Okay, please demonstrate to me how an objective basis for morality creates a curse on the world known as sin that we all need to be saved from. Okay, moving right along.
Thought that this incredible design must have come from an intelligent designer.
Most of the planet is covered in water, something we need for survival, that we can't even drink. Whales with hip bones that don't need to be there. Ostriches with wings. The recurrent laryngeal nerve in most life is unnecessarily long. But in the giraffe, it's about 20 feet of nerve. Dolphins breathe air, but live in water. None of that is intelligent.
You know how when you see a beautiful painting, you know there was an artist who painted it. Well, Aquinas believed that the artist behind the world's design is God. So there you have it. Thomas Aquinas' 5 ways to prove the existence of God have helped people to understand and appreciate the idea of God's existence.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Thomas just saying that must...
Can we just put Aquinas on the list of stupid things theists say? I could not care any less what Thomas Aquinas thought, what Nietzsche thought, what Sartre thought. I mean, some of these people had interesting things to say. They were right about some of the things they said. They were wrong about some of the shit they said. But in all cases, the world has gone on. And these motherfuckers act like we have not learned anything since these great minds. And the simple drop of their name makes us have to fall to our knees in fucking submission to the great almighty intellects. And it's like, Christians, we don't care. We really don't care. We really don't care.
Be a god doesn't mean it actually was a god. That's just Thomas not understanding something and suggesting it was a god. He really needs to prove the god.
But it's up to each person to decide what they believe. You could have the absolute best argument or evidence there is in the world to prove God is real. But if the person who receives it is hardened their heart, it won't do much until they soften it.
Oh, off. Offering wishy-washy, easily explainable answers to all of that and then saying, well, you don't accept it because your heart is too hard is dumb. I don't use my heart to make decisions. I use my brain. It's far more reliable.
The reason that atheists can't find God, and I say this as a former atheist, is the way we have been conditioned.
All right, he already said something stupid, which was... I'm a theist now, but I used to be an atheist. Gang, that's one of the dumbest thing theists ever say. Nobody has ever, for any good reason at all, based on anything remotely close to evidence, reason, or anything rational, logical, or empirical, or any of that shit, ever moved from being an atheist to a theist. So you have already shown us, when you claim that you used to be an atheist, but now you're a theist, you've already told us that you are bottom tier in terms of intellect.
As a culture is to discover things outwardly. We discover the stars through telescopes, we discover bacteria through microscopes. And that's not wrong, that's a good thing. But it just leaves out this whole other dimension of discovery that we can make.
Oh man, you're British, don't let the side down. What other dimension?
Rather than turning our attention outwards towards objects, turning that back around, our attention towards ourselves, and putting our attention on the subject. Who is it that knows these things? It's slightly more difficult in this sense because it's, unlike science, it's always the same. It's the same observable qualities that someone can replicate, the experiment and all the observation, and it can be written about, and everyone has that shared reality. Whereas when it comes to this form of discovery, it's your own personal journey that you go on, and that differs from person to person. Hence why it's not so easy to pinpoint this, and it goes over some people's heads.
Please don't tell me that a god is personal to you, because that would mean there are like 8 billion plus gods that all need demonstrating. The arrogance of this Brit. Personal gods can't be understood by many. Rude.
So what happens when you do turn your attention towards yourself? Well, you
become a selfish, ignorant asshole.
Analyze and deconstruct yourself and your inner world. You can start to see that your thoughts and your feelings are things that are transient. They come and they go and they change. And actually, if those things are constantly changing, but I'm always there, then that means I can't be those things, because I'm always aware of those things changing. So what is it? What is that thing that is aware of those things changing?
Someone drank too many.
I hate to say it again, but his partner's favorite thing is shh, baby, don't say another word. Oh man.
What is that thing that is aware of those things changing?
Someone drank too many lagers. What does this have to do with why atheists can't find a god?
I can't be my thoughts and my feelings if they come and go, because I'm always here.
But you can experience something and know what emotion is behind them. And I'm sure they can be demonstrated with science, given levels of chemicals released in your brain holes.
And in that line of inquiry, you discover that you are in fact the awareness that is aware of this person, this body, this mind. And when you discover that you're awareness, and that's what you truly essentially are, then you can start to analyze, well, if that's essentially what I am, then what qualities do I have? And then you can investigate awareness itself, and you can see that I, awareness, am unlimited. I don't have a limit to myself. I'm and therefore I'm totally free. I cannot be disturbed.
I don't know about that. I think humans have certain limits. You can't imagine yourself flying and then fly, and this is a lot of waffle for why atheists can't find a god.
You can't damage or harm awareness.
I don't know about that either.
But I can slap you upside your head
about that.
Awareness cannot be, because it cannot be disturbed, it's peaceful, inherently peaceful. And that awareness cannot be, have anything added to it or taken away from it, and therefore it's happy.
Who do you watch? Like who do you watch that makes you talk like this? What do you read that makes you fill your head with mush? I mean, this is just the mumbo jumbo gumbo, y'all.
And you at first make these discoveries on an intellectual level, but through meditation and constantly revisiting and going through that path of saying, I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my feelings, I'm this awareness has these qualities, and you keep bringing yourself back to that place and reminding yourself.
My God, bro, it's called meditation. It's called, have you literally just fucking now discovered fucking the idea? You sit and you're centered and you focus on focusing and you breathe and you fucking focus on the breathing and where do I start and the breathing stop and you fucking blend into the ether of fucking. Somebody get this man a yoga fucking class.
Of those qualities, you then over time slowly dissolve all of these feelings of separation and being a separate person that suffers. Those feelings start to fall away and you start to embody these qualities of this peaceful, fulfilled, complete self that not only you are, but everyone is.
Did we just sit through all that to suggest that atheists lack awareness and so you can't find a god? That was dumb AF. What if my awareness led me to believe that it was a giant dragon controlling my life? It doesn't make any sense. And so there we have another selection of when theists say stupid things. Feel free to message me on other socials with any short videos you find with theists saying stupid things.
Gang, subscribe to The Skeptic. That was well done. Kudos to the Skeptics fans and community for providing those videos. That was fun. That was a fun way to put a cap on the birthday bash. Again, shout outs to Lina. Happy fucking birthday, sweetheart. Hope you catch us later. Go ahead, gang. There's a link in the description to send Lina some birthday blessings. Thanks again to everybody for tuning in. We will be back. Thanks for dropping the link again, Punk. We will be back tomorrow afternoon for Hot Program and the Blackout starting at 1 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see you all there. Thanks so much for the birthday wishes. Love you guys. Thank you guys so much. And